I'm Jon Sicotte, Executive Editor of the Brewer Magazine. Welcome to another edition of the Brewer Magazine podcast. Make sure you're liking and subscribing on YouTube and Spotify to catch up with the podcast, or you can head every day to brewermag.com or check us out on our social media platforms as well to get your latest business resources. Well, the name of the article in the January-February issue of Brewer Magazine, which you can see online in our digital format right now at brewermag.com, is Brewing a Lifestyle Brand, Andy Langlois and David Manson's Strategic Approach to Organic Growth for Blackrocks. Blackrocks Brewery, our cover story, coming out of Marquette, Michigan on the shores of Lake Superior, my hometown, and was very happy to get a chance to talk to these guys while I was back home in July of 2024, and sat down and talked with them, threw up the recorder as well, along with the audio recorder, the video recorder, and had a chance to talk with them about all the different things that they've done in their growth for over a decade now, starting on a small little house on 3rd Street, right down from my middle school, and being able to watch them grow has been really cool, and to be able to get behind the scenes and find out for you exactly what Blackrocks has been doing to grow to become this brand in the state of Michigan, and how they're kind of looking towards being that lifestyle brand. You can read about it in the issue, but here's a little bit of an in-depth look, some of the interview from our time at Blackrocks Brewery.
After relocating from Chicago back here, I had done home brewing in the mid-90s, muttons, pour, bottled, whatever. It never really tasted great, and it wasn't that fun, because you're waiting on the bottles, and I've had bottles explode, whatever. Okay, so then fast forward, we had been doing our drug rep jobs, and it became pretty routine and not really challenging that other side of our brain, the creative side. And Andy's a hell of a musician and singer. I am not, so the idea of a band was out, which is probably good. And then I mentioned to him, I was like, I used to homebrew. And what was your response?
I like beer.
And I said, well, if we're going to do this, I'd like to do it different than when I did it. I don't want to use malt extract. I want to go all grain. I want to mill it. I want to use hops. I want to I want to create beer the way it's supposed to be, and have that functionality of diversity. And so we just started. We got a little 5-gallon system, and then brewed and learned, and we never dumped anything. We always choked it down.
We did.
We kept kind of just improving on the process, and it felt like every weekend we were in our basement just trying new things. And then we had a little kegerator that we made, and we'd serve beer while we were brewing and have people over, and just kind of learn about the whole process. And then we did that for I think it was 4 years, winter, summer, just got really obsessed with it. Wow. And then we started looking at other beers differently, you kind of start to understand what they're doing and what they taste like and why they taste like it. And so, so that was kind of our home brewing journey.
Nice. And did you guys know each other from up here, from when you worked somewhere else?
So we had a lot of mutual friends kind of in the periphery, but then my company was hiring, and he heard and found out that I was, the contact person or with the job. And so he came, he's like, hey, I'd like to work for this company. And so I put his resume in.
I got an interview. He said something like, don't screw it up.
And so then we started to become partners in the pharmaceutical company that we were working for. We shared the UP and parts of Wisconsin, and kind of be all over the place. And so while we're driving around, this is BlackBerry days, we'd look up recipes and share articles to each other and be like, hey, look, why don't we try this? And so then we'd get home on the weekends and we'd try that.
Nice.
And so we kind of just kept doing that.
It's a big learning curve, brewing beer, and that's kind of those 3-4 years that's what that was about.
Yeah.
And then we had dreamed you'd have that 60-minute boil time where you're just kind of sitting there, and we'd talk about it, be like, this would be kind of fun to do, really do, make it a business when we retire. We were pretty golden handcuffs where we were in our pharma world. And so it was never anything that we thought we would take beyond the basement unless we were retired and we had time and extra disposable income. But then
Farm is volatile.
Farmer became very volatile, and May of 2010 they had a company-wide message that said, stand by your phones in June, we'll see if you have a job.
Stuff goes generic and they just lay off thousands.
And it was all the ACA, the Affordable Care Act. All the pharma companies were like, we're not going to need anybody because the government's going to decide what drugs people are going to have. And so we found out in June, and in that month in between, we're like, well, they don't need us up here. They're going to get rid of us. We got to come up with a plan. I don't want to go back into the volatile industry of pharma and have to travel all over the Midwest. We kind of wanted to be here. We like Marquette. We wanted to stay in Marquette. Like, maybe we could do this brewery thing.
The thing with Marquette is it is the biggest city on the UP. It had a brewery already.
Yeah.
Did you when it comes to putting a business plan together and trying to do a comparable or figure out, we're going to make this much in that kind of year, like what kind of business plan did you
It was a lot of guesswork.
Yeah.
I mean, the only thing we'd had was the Veerling, which had the restaurant benefit because they're a brew pub. But there was never a standalone. The market was naive. We did a lot of calling to different breweries around the state, just tried to get an idea of what we think we could do, and then we really kind of just backed it out and said, well, how do we survive? Like, what's the minimum amount we need to survive to keep the doors open, and kind of worked our way back. And we had stretch goals of 1 year, 3 year, 5 year. What is that going to look like if we keep at it and maybe keep investing into the business? And I mean, we found out it was a great time to start a little microbrewery in town.
Yeah.
People use the word grassroots a lot.
Yeah.
And I guess this is like truly grassroots because we started with not much. I mean, that's why we started in a house, because our buddy had the house. And we said, we knocked down some walls, put up some beams, and we're like, well,
That seems like a lot.
What else are we going to do? We really don't have the cash to... I think it's way out of the norm for a lot of breweries. They're going to find a venue that looks big enough with a system that is big enough, and then they're going to go from there and hope that they sell all that. Well, we were kind of like, it's like trying to sell beer in a closet, and we had a 1-barrel system coming from a 5-gallon system as a home brewer. You're thinking, wow, this is a lot of beer. So we had the 1-barrel Blickman system and started brewing on that, and we opened the doors, and we found out pretty quickly that 1 barrel at a crack is just not going to be enough. And so it sold out in the first night, and we just, thank God for Facebook, we were able to stay in touch with people and let them know when we'd be open again. So we'd fill up the fermenters, and we had some staggered, so something else would come on. And end of the night, we'd say, sorry, you drank us out of beer. And we'd do a toast, and people would laugh at us. But they didn't. We were lucky too. They weren't like, well, this place sucks. They don't even have enough beer. They were like, they found, there was definitely some amusement on their end about it. Like, we were shoestringing it, trying to take it from something to something else. But we didn't really even know what that something else was at the time, really.
Yeah.
It was like 5 years down the road, maybe. It happened to come a little bit quicker, where we're adding a 3-barrel system.
Yeah.
And finding out that that's still not enough.
Did you guys have a beer knowledge going in, like business side? I mean, you had, some with pharmaceutical sales, you kind of had some ideas on that, but
Right.
what was your beer business knowledge coming in?
Nothing. It was, we literally talked to like Joe Short of Short's Brewery, so what should we expect, and what how does pricing work, and kind of went through all that stuff. And you can, it's a little bit like a grandized lemonade stand. The cost of input, what what you need to charge for that to cover, and then make a little bit to keep the lights on and all the other stuff. So you just kind of build all that stuff out as it's kind of being developed.
Yeah.
Did we really know?
No. And even the process of just opening a tap room, I think it was more like just inviting friends over.
Yeah.
Like on a bigger scale than what we were doing in the basement at his place. And all of a sudden we realized Oh, you need rags.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
you need more than just a handful of boxes of pint glasses.
Pint glasses.
There was a couple runs up to the
to
dollar store.
Yeah, run
running
up to the
home.
dollar
And
store.
running home.
You guys
Yeah.
grab glasses from your house. I remember.
I mean,
serving
it's
out
just
of, like,
ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean,
What do you mean we have to buy glassware? You know, three per person that
Yeah.
are sitting here.
Yeah.
it is kind of
Unbranded.
I definitely remember the dollar store purchases.
Oh, I just ran out to the dollar store. I'm like, pints, yes. Give me all 3 cases. I'm going to bring them back.
But we thought that was a lot of beer at the time, naively, and we fortunate to get the support. And then the big thing is we're going to get another 1 or 2 more Blickman fermenters, and that's going to change everything. You know, it's like, no, we're just chasing our tail for first year,
Yeah.
and then
Year and a half,
and then figuring it out a little bit. But it's a hell of a learning experience.
I mean, my greatest thing behind the taps was somebody who would come in with their husband or with their wife and be like, I don't really like beer. And I'm like, well, you're in a brewery. Let's try to change that.
Yep.
Let's see if we can't find something. And I'm like, what do you normally drink? Wine. Okay. And then I would go off and, like, usually it was coconut brown for some of those folks. And or whatever. You just want them to see that beer isn't like, what'd you grow up drinking? Like, oh, my family always had Bud Light.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't like beer either. You know, it's just not great. They do a great job of what they do, but it's not
That's
something
not all
you're
beer.
excited
many,
about.
Many other
Yeah.
options.
But
There's
a
a
lot
lot
of
of
them
other
would try
fun
it
things.
and then just say, it's actually not that bad.
Yeah. That's what we were shooting for. Slaving over the ingredients and the recipes and the time. We were going for not bad.
Yeah. Like you said, not chasing trends, but how do you win the new 21-year-olds that are coming to Northern and
Great
just
question.
learning about beer? Do you have a thought process going in, because you might be the introductory brewery to some 21-year-old?
So the 21-year-old of 2010 to 2018 is a lot different than the 2021 or the 21-year-olds of 2024.
Mm-hmm.
They have a lot of options. You know, pot's legal. There's a whole bunch of seltzers, and I think we've talked about this, is that the previous ones, craft beer wasn't ubiquitous. Now, craft beer's everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just like, yeah, craft beer, whatever. Whereas before it was like, holy crap, craft beer. Oh my gosh,
They have a
right?
brewery
There was
in
more
that town.
exciting.
Yeah.
It was more interesting. So I think the goal is to reinvigorate that younger subset that life isn't about White Claws.
Mm-hmm.
There's a better, possibly decent drinking option that you haven't even tapped into yet.
Yeah.
And I think they'll make their way in. Maybe they'll find it. Maybe they'll be later on down the road. Maybe they will never find it. But I think getting them in and making them realize that there is a beer or several different styles that they're going to gravitate towards and like is just getting them into the door and having that experience of like, oh, well, let's get you down the road. Like,
Yeah.
what do you normally like? What are you, more of a fruity or a hoppy, or you've never had a hoppy beer? Well, try this one. It's a good approachable hoppy beer.
Yeah.
I think it's all about that awareness and education.
Yeah. How do you get them here with marketing?
Well,
I looking at your stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
your website's solid. You guys are on point with, Facebook and Instagram posts. There's got to be a lot of thought process in bringing in people too.
Yeah, so it's kind of slowly been developing Blackrocks as a brand into more of like an actual like lifestyle brand.
Mm-hmm.
So like Andy said before, he kind of touched on it, but for bringing those people in, it doesn't necessarily need to be all about the beer like it
Right.
used to be. It's more about the experience
Mm-hmm.
and the idea and how you feel when you come here. I mean, with the music that Andy lines up, like David said, he's a great musician, so we have awesome music and the sound is always dialed in, and
And
just
look at this place.
hanging out on the patio, so you bring people in by just the idea of it and just wanting to have the experience of being at Blackrocks. And then, like I've kind of made this analogy before, I think of the beer as sort of like salt on food, it just makes things a little bit better. So like that pint of beer when you're sitting in the evening sun listening to music, it just makes the whole experience just a little bit better, just elevates it a little bit by having that touch of salt, on like a nice piece of fish or something like that. Just, it makes it a little bit better. So it's important, it needs to be there, but it's not the only story. the experience is the total story, and the beer is a part of that. So you get people here, hopefully, by having a great spot, a good vibe, friendly staff, music, and just a good spot where people want to come and hang out, and then have some quality beer to go with them too.
Yeah.
And hopefully they find something like
that works for the people that come here and experience that and experience the beer. But of course, it doesn't do much for someone who's never been here, who lives in Grand Rapids or Detroit. And so the beer still has to stand on its own.
Yep.
And maybe if their friend had told them about it, it's that, I guess, organic.
Yeah.
But that's how it kind of works, And sure, I'll give it a try. And then maybe you hear something about something even beyond the beer, and you go, "This is, oh, okay." Next thing you know, maybe you're driving up here to hang out for a weekend, and you can get the full experience. But
Well, I think that's kind of part of maybe the secret sauce you could say we have is we also have these brewers who are unbelievably good at what they do,
Yep.
and they are constantly striving to do better at that. So with Chut here, and with all the guys in production, with like Andrew and Evan and Brendan, they're like super beer geeks. So they make a great beer, but they're like, there's a way to make this better. So let's like try to tweak little things to make it better. So the beer can completely stand on its own as a quality beer that's going to be consistent. So yeah, I think that's, if you didn't have that, if you're just trying to sell a brand with a mediocre product, it would eventually fizzle out because people will try it once and then be like, all right, well, yeah, it's cool to go there, but the beer kind of sucked. But the fact that we have the beer to back it up is how you can have that longevity of staying in the market.
that kind of elevates our game too, because we we kind of want to make sure we raise the bar high enough to match the product,
What does your outside the beer, live music, how have you created this to be this type of community spot, local hangout? Everyone talks about this now. If you don't have food, how do you bring people in? Because it seems like the brew pub model was the 90s, and everyone's like, we're not doing that. We're going to just open a tap room and everyone will come to beer. And now we're that 15 years later, and everyone's like, I'd love to have some food. How have you because you guys don't have a food menu at all.
Nope.
How do you feel that you're still being able to be successful with, out having to add that extra element of, another business basically?
Well, we do have food trucks that
Okay.
we are close cooperation with. All summer there'll be somebody here every day. But then in the winter, you don't have that. So you have to create, I think, an environment that is cozy and a place where you want to just take a break and relax. And one of the great things about, I think, breweries, maybe more in general, is you don't see a lot of unhappy people at a brewery. They're generally pretty jovial and outgoing, and they're there with a common purpose. They want to have beer. They want to try different beers. They want to try and repeat good beers. And so it's kind of an instant enveloping of inclusion. And if I was like a 22-year-old and I was like, I'm tired of playing the rat race or going to the meat clubs to try to hook up, I just want to go and relax somewhere and just have a beer and talk. That environment's there, and it just kind of becomes this place where you feel comfortable in.
Yeah.
And I think that's because of the staff, and it's because of the environment,
And the
the intent, and the customers.
Yeah.
It's all this kind of trickle downs to don't be a jerk, enjoy beer, and get along with each other. And I think that goes a long way for the little salt on the fish.
But the food trucks have been a big help in the last handful of years. Just with we don't have the space for a kitchen, and it's not something we really wanted to take on. So we just have a pretty good relationship with we don't charge food trucks to be here or anything because we know it benefits us because it provides food for people and maybe stick around and have another beer, and then it's benefit for them because there's a whole bunch of hungry people right next door.
I do like how informal it is too. Just going to grab your basket of whatever, pretzels and hamburgers. I think if it was if you just said we're a restaurant now, then you might lose a little bit of what David just said. You can't just pop in and take a table because everybody around you is eating.
Expecting to eat.
Yeah.
And they're out of their plates, and you're like, I just want to have a beer and relax.
Do I need a reservation?
Maybe I'll stay and grab a hamburger.
Do I have to sit and eat now, or what?
Yeah.
It'd be like.
I like that. I never really thought about that, but that is good. Being informal like that.
Well, it just feels
you
more
don't
like,
feel guilty
hey,
about.
if you want to eat, go grab something.
Yeah.
If you don't, and you just want to have a beer,
That's totally
it's
fine,
great.
too.
You want to bring in a sandwich? Bring in a sandwich. We don't care.
Order a pizza.
Oh, Europe, because they're casual. They're fun. You just relax. You don't have to worry about stuff. You need food, get food. Mm-hmm. You got beer, you're fine.
Yeah. So distribution-wise, you guys are throughout Michigan into Wisconsin now, or all right? Is that okay? Even though I drove through there, I didn't stop anywhere to look. Is this we kind of said, are you happy with what you're? I mean, is there that continual look to maybe push out more, or do you like the spot you're in?
We like the spot we're in. We feel there's a lot of runway left still in our home state. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of draft handles that we could still be getting. There's a lot of shelf space that doesn't have us on, and so we kind of would like to feel we've done everything we've done here. That's kind of why Wisconsin is present but not pushed, or we're just not as worried. We're happy people who have requested us can get us. Mm-hmm. But we're not looking to take over. We're not looking to have every tap handle and every gin joint and bar and supper club throughout Wisconsin. Yeah. We'd like to have that in Michigan, and then after that's satisfied, then we'll see. Then maybe we'll go into Wisconsin and try to do more. And if that's satisfied, then maybe we'll expand more. But currently, we want to make sure our home state's taken care of.
When it comes to downstate distro and stuff, do you guys have sales reps and boots on the ground down there? Or are you guys working with the distro people?
So you're looking at 3, and everybody else that works here was in sales for the first many years. And in 2020, right around COVID,
January 1st, 2020 is when
we hired our first sales guy, Joe Black, based out of Traverse City. Used to be a founder's rep for the state in that area. And always a friend of the brewery, and we thought, okay, now it's that again, that organic thing. Okay, well, it'd be nice to be able to concentrate on other things instead of having to deal with the distributors all the time and going to all these events and checking market and all this stuff. Perfect fit in. And then now we're 4 years later. We just hired our second salesperson to kind of take over the lower half that Joe's like, I've got 90% of my problems and needs right here. Yeah. I cannot get down to these markets as much as needs to be represented. And that talks about that empty space or those tap handles that need to be taken care of. Like, that's not going to happen unless you have those boots on the ground. Mm-hmm. And so we just hired a lad named Kyle Eno who's going to take over that lower quadrant.
Cool.
And for us, we're really excited about that, just to have some representation. To not just be a case on a flat of beer that comes in, to actually have a face to it, and to provide some service that we just haven't been able to do in the past. So it's exciting.
Yeah. Is that kind of that next step for you guys? But it gives you like you said, I mean, there's a completely different thought process of who you guys are here versus who you guys are out in the market.
Right.
Now you're just getting into that. Kyle can help him learn that. His
onboarding was basically 3 days up here, hanging out, working the packaging line a little bit, hanging out, doing a shift here, like pouring beers here, and then just generally getting our vibe, because he was a fan. Mm-hmm. He would work for a distributor that carried us and always was super supportive and really wanted us to do well and really wanted to push our products into these different markets. And he liked us because we had good liquid and we would show up for events and we'd support him and as best we could from being remote. Yeah. And so when he came up here, he had a really good idea of what Blackrocks is. On a kind of a more macro, full vision type of a thing. Yeah. And he'll be able to carry that stoke and that vibe down there.
Nice.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Don't forget, you can always check on brewermag.com. You can also see us on YouTube and listen to us on Spotify. And don't forget daily updates on Facebook, Instagram, and X. I'm Executive Editor Jon Sicotte for brewermagazine.com.